All right, getting back to work, the White House releasing a new ad campaign today, spearheaded by Ivanka Trump, called Find Something New, an effort to encourage and assist the millions of laid off American workers.
I know what you're thinking. I need a job.
Well, I've been there.
I've been there.
But you gotta keep going.
You just need the right skills. Find an apprenticeship.
I found a course online.
You can do this.
You will find something.
You will find something new.
So here now is James Freeman, who I've missed so much, from the Wall Street Journal. He's a Fox News contributor. I'm so glad you're back. I know you were working on a big book, and I'm so glad to have you back with us on the show, because you are always an explosion of common sense, which I love. I love this ad campaign because I think that it is true that there are a lot of people who need to retrain and find something new to do. That said, oh my goodness, what a daunting task. You're already out of work, and people are saying, guess what? You've got to retrain and find something else. I'm wondering, do you think it's possible? And do you think that, I know Ivanka Trump has been working through this whole entire administration to try and figure out how we train the workforce of the future. Have we made any strides in that?
Well, this could be helpful. I think, as we saw in the first few years of the Trump administration, the best jobs program is low taxes, low regulation. That was working. We now have a lot of politicians other than Donald Trump restraining economic activity with lockdowns. So I think people do have to get creative. And what the White House did was they've looked at the history. The federal government operates 47 job training programs, spends about $19 billion a year. A lot of them, they don't even measure the results. The ones they do, they're not very good. But where we have seen some positive effects is on the job search side, kind of giving people resources. And what she's doing here is basically putting a lot of information out. It's the ad campaign is paid for generally by people in the private sector. So this isn't another big, expensive federal program. And I think, as you said, this is a tough time for people to get creative and figure out how, despite these lockdown restrictions, they can find a job.
You know, I mean, it's interesting because, as you said, private companies have a huge stake in this. And I've seen this in, for example, the kitchen and bath industry, where they say they don't have the skilled workers they need from both people who can work with their hands and plumbing, but then also designers and people who can work with graphics. And so they're trying to partner with schools and grab kids in middle school and grab kids in high school and train them. For older folks, though, to me, it seems like it's become more about the gig economy, that maybe they don't have the courage to get trained on coding or something technical. But as you look around at what people are doing around you, you're like, well, I could drive an Uber. You know, I could do, there's a lot of gig work out there. Maybe is that another solution?
Yeah, some people in my household seem to have found a way to make money in the gig economy. So there are opportunities there. I think it's a positive that the White House has looked to private companies to figure out where the jobs are. A lot of times the government kind of creates these programs without having a real sense of what the economy actually needs. I think apprenticeships are one area you alluded to where there are opportunities, and some of the government programs have been modestly helpful. But I think this is a time for everyone. Obviously, with the cancel culture in our industry, people could be looking for new jobs at any moment. And with the shutdowns, people are thinking about that nationwide. So I think it's obviously very timely, but I think Ivanka and her father and everyone at the White House understands that the real jobs program is reopening the economy. Part of that is we're talking about how they want to get schools reopened. That's going to be most helpful in kind of bringing us back to where we were a year ago, which is historic levels of job openings.
I mean, the truth is, if we're really honest, James, a lot of companies have realized through this that they can do more with less, that they can have some people work from home, that maybe they don't need as many employees, that maybe they don't need as much of this and that, and that some people who think their job is going to be there when everything reopens, it's not going to be, even though their employer has told them, and maybe their employer had the best intentions at the beginning. So there are people at home who, you know, when they reply to that unemployment survey saying, I'm temporarily unemployed, I'm going back to my job. And I'm thinking to myself, I hope you're right. But they're getting nervous. It's called findsomethingnew.org. And that's the website for everybody out there who's watching this, findsomethingnew.org. And it portends to give some information, or at least get you thinking about what it is that I could be doing. And James, you know, there are people, once you're home and you start reflecting, maybe you didn't love what you were doing before. Maybe you don't want to go back to that commute. Maybe you don't want to go back to that office. Maybe it is time for your own, you know, peace of mind and health and happiness to find something new. I don't know, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and you have to be kind of entrepreneurial. It's hard sometimes if you're doing a certain job, you're kind of used to being assigned tasks, and so it's not always easy to take the initiative and think creatively about. You've been doing one thing. What are the other things you might be able to do? And I think a lot of us probably are going to have these thoughts and kind of explorations of our possibilities here, because you mentioned this is a huge issue for a lot of companies as they look at when they come back to offices. If people have been working from home, a lot of businesses talking about how they believe they need to spread people out more at work, which suggests either fewer people working in those offices or a lot more commercial office space they're going to have to buy. We'll see. Maybe they decide people can work from home. Maybe they do decide, as you said, in some cases, that the business can do with less people. So I think it's always going to be challenging, and this time particularly. But I really think on the positive side, we've got so many wonderful incentives right now in America in terms of a competitive corporate tax rate, a breather on regulation the last few years. If we can just get a reopening, I think you are going to see a very robust recovery. And there's no reason in the world,
I hope so,
if we are back and operating again without restrictions, obviously people being sensible, washing hands and all of that. But we really have a lot of reason to be optimistic that there are going to be more jobs and more growth ahead if we allow it.
I missed your positive spirit, James Freeman. Thank you so much. Connell, over to you.